Good morning, gang. Happy Monday. All right, here we go again. Lots and lots of stuff came out in the last 24 to 36 hours. And we all know stuff gets buried in the weekend news, so nobody really pays too much attention to it, okay? Especially, in the US. I mean, we're all too busy doing something else in the weekend to pay attention to what's going on. And it's high time we really start paying attention. Now, I know all of us are really good about it. I try to be as good as I can, and you guys are extremely helpful, and I appreciate that to get the word out to everybody about what's going on. A lot of questions come up all the time. Do you think that the US or Canada or Australia or Europe or whatever it is going to start see rationing? And my answer, at least for the U.S., has always been not unless we go to war, okay? Because believe it or not, we are, and I've said this many times, the only self-sufficient country on the face of the earth. If the borders all got shut down, everything like that, we could go on with life. Okay, other countries need other countries. Things may get more expensive for us, yes, but we have it. Okay, so there's the thing. However, the threat of war, World War III, really ramped up over the weekend. Yeah, sorry, hate to tell you this. Okay, I'm going to give you a few things that happened. Overnight, reports have come out now that Finland and Sweden look to be joining NATO over the summer. Now, these are two countries that have always professed that they were going to stay out of strategic alliances or organizations. I mean, they've got a strategic alliance with the United States, but now it looks like Sweden and Finland are going to join NATO sometime this summer, which gets real scary because now that that's been made official, Russia had come out, what was it, last week? Was it Thursday? I think it was Thursday or Friday, because obviously things like this don't happen in 30 seconds. Quote from one Russian lawmaker: Finland will be asking for the destruction of their country if they join NATO. This came out from Russia Friday. Okay. Now, if you want to look at what else is going on, and Magic Prepper did a great video on this yesterday. The Poland, have, not polls like who's going to win, okay, Poland, put out a pamphlet over the weekend entitled "Be Ready, a Guide for Times of Crisis and War." Now, I'm going to link this to it, or there's going to be a ton of links below this video, guys, for you guys to go look at all this stuff. The pamphlet itself is in Polish, okay? So unless you speak Polish, good luck. If you want to try to Google Translate it, go for it. But the synopsis, which you can translate to English here, as long as you open up in Google Chrome, it'll translate it. You'll see exactly what they're talking about. But when they start putting out things about crisis of war, all right, now, I want you to remember this. Romania, a couple of weeks ago, I talked to you guys, had started issuing potassium iodide to all of their citizens. Okay? Next one, Slovakia, all right, gave a bunch of S-300, these are old Soviet anti-aircraft systems, to Ukraine, and got a bunch of Patriot missile systems from the U.S. Now, if you start taking a look at this, Russia's all worried about Ukraine. Oh, NATO's going to be on our back door. Let's go through this. These are the countries that border Russia. Finland, now going to supposedly be part of NATO. Lithuania, Latvia, already part of NATO. Okay. Turkey, part of NATO. Now, Belarus obviously is a Russian ally. Ukraine is where everything is. Let's look at the countries that go around Belarus and Ukraine. Lithuania, already part of NATO. Poland, already part of NATO. Slovakia, already part of NATO. All right, you are talking about countries on the borders here, and literally on the Russian, Belarusian, Ukraine border, where the war would go next, inevitably. And remember, a month ago I said, watch out for Poland because this is going to be next. That's where they're going to go after. I think the Poles are starting to think that too, all right? But all these countries that are bordering Russia, bordering Ukraine, are now starting to ramp things up. Poland, Slovakia, Romania. The only one that isn't is Hungary, and you get this little slice that they've got a border in the southwest corner of Ukraine. Now, you think that's enough? Well, Australia has now started shipping money and weapons to Ukraine. The U.S. is boasting that we are sending weapons to Ukraine every day, okay? But this is the interesting one. This was on Meet the Press yesterday, all right? Chuck Todd, everybody's favorite liberal, okay, was interviewing Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor, all right? And Chuck Todd asked, has the U.S. stopped distinguishing between defensive and offensive weapons that we are giving to Ukraine? And Sullivan said, yes, it's all been but eliminated. Now, what does that tell you? Defensive weapons are one thing, but when the Czechs are now sending T-72 tanks to Ukraine, the Brits have said that they are going to start sending armored vehicles and tanks to Ukraine. Tanks can be defensive. Tanks are also very offensive weapons. If Ukraine decides to start pushing back and into Russia, we got big problems. All right? But it doesn't end there. Now, we all know the stories that Russia is behind the power curve in supplies. Okay, they had to back out, regroup, wait for reinforcements to come from the Far East. Like I've said, we all know they're going back into Ukraine. That's not any big surprise, as opposed to the people say, oh, look, we chased them all away. No, they didn't. All they were doing is that they ran out of supplies. They need more men, more tanks, more ammunition, whatever, and they're waiting for resupplies. They're going back in. But of course, China, who has this unlimited partnership, as they put it, with Russia, doesn't want to be seen as helping Russia. Well, there was a little sneaky thing they tried to do yesterday. Used Syria as the straw man. I always love when they try to do something that's quote-unquote secret, and then it's all over the place. Okay, there's a story out yesterday. China makes semi-secret delivery of missiles to Serbia. All right? Well, Serbia is a Russian ally. I'll give you this. So what happens? China flies in a whole bunch of Y-20 transport planes. Not just one. One comes in, that's somewhat normal. Okay, but you see a fleet of them come in all at the same time. Something's up. China brought in a whole bunch of anti-aircraft systems into Serbia. How many of those might make it to Russia? China gives it to Serbia. Their hands are clean. Serbia gives it to Russia. China's like, we didn't know they were going to do that. Mark my words. All right. Then you get into Taiwan. All right. And we know everything going on that the AUKUS, United States, Australia, and UK are really starting to ramp things up with Taiwan. Okay. China has started to beef up their nuclear arsenal to deter what they're calling the U.S. threat. Now, as far as I know, we have no ambitions of going into China, we being the United States. Okay, so everything that we are doing is defensive posturing for Taiwan, who, even though isn't an ally, is a good friend. Let's put it that way. The issue gets is this, okay? China is getting very blustery on this, saying, basically, the United States will burn if they do anything with Taiwan. Okay, we're going to help Taiwan. It's very, very worrisome when you hear stuff like this, okay? This comes out of the U.S. We've seen that China is reluctant to condemn Russian aggression. Beijing has also joined Moscow in challenging the right of nations to choose your own path. This is a serious challenge. NATO will deepen its cooperation with Asia-Pacific countries in areas such as arms control, cyberspace, hybrid warfare, and technology. Okay? The U.S. is going to, quote-unquote, over-equip South Korea and Japan as others, with China being the target. All right? We all know, well, maybe we all don't. Nancy Pelosi is supposed to make a trip to Taiwan here sometime this week. No U.S. government official has gone to Taiwan in 25 years. China's kind of pissed about that, all right? They're very upset that the U.S. is supporting China. They think that the United States is trying to control China, okay? I think we're trying to rein them in, that's for sure, okay? But China's quote, about the United States, they need to understand they are playing with fire. Those who play with fire are sure to burn. That's not a thinly veiled threat, guys, okay? And you want to add anything to it. I know this starts getting more and more and more strange. Morocco and Algeria got a lot hotter this weekend. If you don't know where that is, that's North Africa, just south of Spain. This is the entrance from the Atlantic into the Mediterranean Ocean, or Mediterranean Sea, okay? Basically between Morocco and Spain there. So if that starts getting to be a high tension area, you have no access into the Med from the Atlantic. Saudi Arabia and Yemen are going at it, and the Saudis, we talked about this, are pissed at the United States because we're not backing them as much as they'd like, and so that's why the Saudis are now starting to link up with China. Well, there's the access to the Mediterranean through the Red Sea. This could if those things happen, which they are, obviously, this could completely take out any sort of naval capacity. Because remember, Turkey isn't letting anybody into the Black Sea, even with all the stories on these mines that are in the Black Sea. They're now saying, oh, maybe those are plants because the U.S. wants to get U.S. minesweepers in, and Turkey's adamant about not letting warships into the Black Sea. This is getting real hot real fast, guys. And I know that's a whole lot of geography for 5 o'clock in the morning for me, for Monday morning. But this is what could drive rationing, because inevitably we're going to get involved. And by we, I mean, obviously anybody in Europe, you guys know that. Australia, you guys know that. Canada, the US, whatever. Basically, any of the quote-unquote Western world is going to get involved in this. For Europe, obviously this is going to affect you food-wise. This is going to affect you fuel-wise. For the United States, for Canada, this is significantly going to affect us food-wise and money-wise. Okay, everything is going to get more expensive because, hey, support the war effort. Again, we're just going to drive less and less and less supply down. Down. Money's out there, supply goes down. It means prices keep going up. Okay, more money, less supply means everything gets more expensive. So this would have major inflationary pressures on the U.S. Like we don't have enough already. Australia, New Zealand, you got the same issues that the United States has. Okay. Just because of your proximity. But, Europe is the interesting one. Guys, this is starting to look very, very similar to what happened with World War I. We're a little more than 100 years past that. But, it's not Serbia and Montenegro at this point. It could be Russia and Ukraine, but there's a big difference. We have jet engines, we have nuclear weapons. There's a whole lot more technology this time around. Yeah. One of those things you need to seriously consider, because and Constantine made a great point yesterday. Nobody will invade Russia because Russia's got nukes. That may hold true for NATO or the U.S. individually or something like that. I don't think that holds true for Ukraine. I think the Ukrainians are just like, hell, all bets are off. We're going to do whatever we want. And then it depends on how the reaction is. Does Russia decide to use something tactically in Ukraine? Then how does the West respond? This may not go from 0 to 60, but this may go from 0 to 20 to 40 to 60. Guys, be ready. Stacked, stocked, stick to the plan, as Prepper Now puts it. But there's a whole hell of a lot of crazy crap going on in the world right now that we need to know about. 80 years of relative peace in the world looks like it's about to end. Pinball out.